Good morning. It's Read Aloud Saturday, and I'm Priscilla here to read to you. And today I picked out a couple of books to share with you. I'm probably not going to read them both all the way through, but earlier this week we celebrated Martin Luther King Day, and sometimes we get a day off school and we don't really understand why we have a day off school. And because we don't discuss it, or mom and dad are too busy, or whatever it is. So I wanted to share some books with you today about Martin Luther King Jr. That are on my bookshelf at home. So this is just a short book. These books are both nonfiction, which means that they carry factual, true information. So this book is just called Martin Luther King, and this one is called If You Lived at the Time of Martin Luther King. And I think it would be also, there is a wonderful show called Our Friend Martin, or My Friend Martin, I think it is called. Anyway, you can check that out, I think, on YouTube as well. But that's kind of a good place to start too if you don't know much about Martin Luther King Jr. So I'll read this short one and then I'll share some of the bigger one with you. I'll share some pages, but I'll read this one, Martin Luther King. And this is by Ray Baines and illustrated by Hal Frank. In 1865, the American Civil War ended and the slaves were freed. But life for many Black people did not improve very much. The United States Constitution said that all people were equal, yet segregation laws in some states continued to treat Blacks unfairly. In some states, Blacks had to attend separate and inferior schools. They were not allowed to vote. They could not use public transportation and facilities on an equal basis with whites. Well into the 20th century, Blacks were denied the rights guaranteed to them in the Constitution. It was into this world that Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15th, 1929. His mother, Alberta, was a school teacher, and his father, Martin Luther King Sr., was a Baptist minister. They lived in Atlanta, Georgia, near the Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Mr. King served as minister. Young Martin's parents were educated, devout, and highly respected members of the community. I might not read all of this to you either. This is a lengthy book. But I will show you some pictures, and I want to show you the other book too. So, there are some pages in here that talk about how Martin Luther King Jr. stood up for other people. He lived for his beliefs. He was jailed many times because of his beliefs. And because of different protests that he attended and or led. Okay. And he really wanted peaceful protest and peaceful ways of showing that treatment was unfair and that things should change. And so Martin Luther King was killed. He was shot in 1968, on April 3rd, 1968. He was shot in Memphis, Tennessee, while he was there helping some garbage men that were on strike. So they were fighting for fair wages and fair work conditions. And he was shot by a man named James Earl Ray, and he did die. So, but we remember him, and we remember his dream of equality for all. Okay, so that's this book, which is just simply entitled Martin Luther King. Like I said, if you go to the library, you can find many, many books on Martin Luther King at your reading level. Okay, now this one's called If You Lived at the Time of Martin Luther King. And there's many books in this series. So there's other books about other times, like if you lived in the time of the Civil War, if you lived in the time of the Revolutionary War. So this is just one in a series of books. And this book is by Scholastic. It's printed by Scholastic. The author is Ellen Levine, or Levine. And it has some great illustrations, and what I really like is it poses questions and then answers them. So like here it says, why did Martin Luther King think voting was so important? And then it goes on to tell why Martin Luther King thought voting was so important. So this actually would be a great book if you were trying to learn more about Martin Luther King so that you could do a research project, a report. And then at the back of the book, I love music, and at the back of the book, there is a old gospel song called "We Shall Overcome" with the music and the words with it. So that's something that you can check out. And it has a table of contents, so if you wanted to know something specific, you could check out the table of contents. It talks about what was segregation, when did the civil rights movement begin, and it also has some beautiful illustrations. Okay, so this book is called If You Lived at the Time of Martin Luther King, and it is by Ellen Levine, and the illustrations are by Anna Rich. So you could look for these books at your library, and many other books about Martin Luther King and his efforts for equal rights. Thanks, and have a great Saturday. I'll see you next week.